My name is Swasti, and I've been one of Coach Uncle's students for a while now. I'm going to the University of Michigan for the major known as Urban Technology, but I'm also planning on double majoring in either political science or computer science. We'll see where my passions lead me. As far as my career goes, I have a lot of directions that I'm looking at. Law school is one of them, but again, I'm super open for anything pretty much. In terms of academic strategies that I kind of focused on, one thing that I did throughout high school was I really angled myself towards one direction. So most of my extracurriculars and a lot of even the classes I took were sort of angled towards this political science route. So for example, I did debate for 8 years, and I did all UN for all 4 years of high school. And all of my events kind of catered towards that. And so in terms of that, I kind of had an idea where I was going, but that wasn't always the case. Definitely early on in my journey, I had a lot of confusion as to what I wanted to do, as to what I was even good at. So that was definitely a huge bump in the road for me earlier on. But obviously everything works itself out towards the end. In terms of my main extracurriculars, the ones that I really focused on were obviously the ones that I did the longest. So I wrote about my experience with debate, my experience with Model UN, and my experience working as the EIC of my school's yearbook. Yearbook was also something I had been doing for 5 years up until that point. So I just spoke to my experiences, how that changed me as a person, and just having the opportunity to really look within myself and see how these extracurriculars impacted me really changed the way that I approached my essays. I feel like it was definitely, because I did have that humanities skew from the very beginning. I was always definitely a writer, more interested in history, but when I took my world history honors class, that really changed my perspective and really gave me more of a focus as to what I wanted to do. Before, I was just kind of a little lost, like, oh, I just didn't want to do like math. I didn't want to do something, but I had no specific direction, whereas taking courses like this, as well as like AP US history, really kind of gave me more of a direction, like, okay, I want to do something that is relating to the politics of this nation and kind of taking that angle. But yeah, in terms of academics, I definitely leaned into what I was good at, and that did serve me. Both of my recommendations were from humanities teachers, but I actually don't recommend that. I did have teachers that I was close with that were in the STEM field, but like my entire mindset when it came to college applications was that I was kind of reaching for this spike, but I feel like that didn't really work towards my favor, because if I had your recommendation letters are both a way to prove that you're a person, but also a way to prove that you're like interdisciplinary and you have multiple kinds of skill sets. And you only have one chance for a real person to speak to your admissions your admissions reader. You can be a real person and you can have multiple interests. I think it's really important to diversify your letters. For me, when I get into something I'm passionate about, I don't really let go. And that definitely changed the way I approached high school extracurriculars. But I know many people that were definitely able to juggle their responsibilities. And even for me, it's a really good way to kind of express different parts of yourself. Like, you just don't think of it as a chore, because your extracurriculars are never going to be a chore. It's supposed to be something that you genuinely enjoy and it comes from you. And everyone has something they care about or has some way that they want to impact something, and your clubs are your chance to do that. It's not something that sucks up your time. It's your opportunity to shine. And that makes just changing the way you think about it, something as simple as that, can make it a lot easier to budget your time more efficiently. And prioritization is something that I really struggled with in high school. So just putting some time in right now, even to figure out what you want, like what you enjoy out of your current high school experience, can really change the way you manage your time, because you know what you want to focus on, what you want to spend time on, and you also have more of a game plan as to how you want to impact those specific extracurriculars. The biggest emotional labor of the college application process was definitely in these summer months, because I was struggling to put time into my work, and it's not because I didn't want to do it, and I'm sure many students will relate to this. It's not that you don't want to work on your college apps. I mean, personally, I'm a perfectionist, and so when I write something and it's not exactly how I want myself to come across as, or not exactly how I want to tell this story, it really hinders my creative process and makes it a lot harder for me to put out work. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. We all want things to, we want to, because this is we're basically pitching ourselves to these universities. We want to come across as who we are to like our like maximum. And like, if anything, if I could go back in time, I really felt like I had an idea for what I wanted my essays to be, and I just kept trying to push at that idea. But something I really wished I emphasized during my early writing process was pushing every boundary possible. And for me, I wouldn't really call myself a creative person, but I do enjoy writing. So if there's something that you enjoy in general, it doesn't have to relate to college apps, just take that thing and push it to the extreme right now, because you want to know what you're capable, because I think a lot of people coming into the college process, they don't know what they're able to write, and they only find out maybe at the end, like, oh, in November, like a spark of inspiration hits them and suddenly they write this perfect essay. That's not how it has to be. You just have to push yourself enough so that you see what you can write and what seems interesting to you, what you enjoy writing, so that you can spend those actual crucial months exploring what you know about yourself. And that's what's really important, because you can't tell colleges about something you don't know about, if that makes sense. Maybe the first 3 drafts, you're gonna hate your personal statement. This personal statement that I wrote, it's 30% of my writing abilities. Like, I know I can write better than this. And the reason I felt this way is because I was, again, trying to I thought like, oh, I want my essay to look this way, or I feel like my essay should tell my story with these incidents. But I really feel like if I push those creative boundaries, because I know that I could have written that story in so many ways, I had the time too. Like, you guys all have the time. You're all setting this aside your entire summer, most of you, writing this application. So just really push, like I've said this a lot, I sound like a broken record right now, but really seeing what you can do really changes a lot of things. Like, for me specifically, I literally thought my personal statement was garbage until like the last day to submit. I changed it, and then I submitted it, and I did okay. And then I spent a lot more time on it. I revised it, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. Like, you have to put in, like, at some point it's gonna feel like it's just like you're slogging at it over and over again. But this is a piece of writing, so that kind of copywriting, editing process, it needs to happen so that this essay sounds good to not just you, but to everyone. There's a sacrifice in everything when it comes to college apps, and you are this creative person 100%, but you also have to find a way to kind of meet these 2 aspects and bring them together. And that's where it comes in. Like, being consistent is hard, but it's necessary. I liked Tosca immediately. I thought she was a fantastic writer and a very interesting person. But she's also always there for you when you need it, in terms of like, not even just like your personal thought process when it comes to these essays, but also like, she's someone you can definitely rely on when it comes to what you want your essays to sound like. She can really help you take what you want to see in your head and figure out how to actually translate that into something tangible and something like that is an actual essay. So Tosca has a really good sense as to how to redirect that back on the track that you initially hoped, or into a direction that you never even considered before, but has a lot of potential and a lot of things that you can explore on your own. So I had a great experience working with her. Yeah, it was a blast. I worked with primarily Tosca and then also with Nikki during those executive functioning meetings. We also looked at my essay because, like I mentioned before, I was having a lot of problems with my personal statement, and it really helped to have, while they were I felt like they were very different opinions, and it was really useful to have someone who had a very different perspective from me and Tosca. So just having someone else, because it's really hard to see how you're presenting yourself from another perspective until someone actually tells you. And I think Nikki did a really good job about that, yeah. There's this misconception that you have to understand yourself completely, and I just wanted to say that's completely impossible. You're 18, you're 17 years old probably, so that's not gonna happen. I'm very sorry. But what your job is right now is you're supposed to show your admissions reader that, hey, I'm interesting, look at me. Like, that's your job right now. And you can do that by being funny. You can do that by showing an actual thing that happened in your life. You can do that by showing who you can be in the future. So just know that you're not supposed to show them your autobiography, you know? You're supposed to show them a little insight, a little snapshot into who you are.